Welcome back to Hannity now. As we told you in our important opening monologue tonight, controversy continues to swirl around the former Obama Attorney General Loretta Lynch after it was reported that she was conducting official State Department business under an email alias, including conversations about her now infamous tarmac meeting with former President Bill Clinton. Here with reaction now, the Chief Counsel for the American Center for Law and Justice, one of the president's attorneys, Jay Sekulow, is with us. When you look at the Department of Justice and the FBI talking about, oh, let's put out talking points because an inappropriate meeting takes place, what does that tell you?
Well, it tells me that they were, we put a timeline together, Sean, of this entire event, and it takes place over about 72 hours. And the Department of Justice and then ultimately the FBI, including James Comey's chief of staff and senior counsel, all became involved in this, and they were in a bit of a panic mode on how to respond. They know that they were caught in what was clearly a not appropriate meeting. That was with Loretta Lynch, who's then the Attorney General, and then former President Bill Clinton, right before Secretary Clinton was about to be investigated, actually be interviewed. So this takes place immediately before then. It gets public, and they're trying to figure out how to respond. And what's interesting here is this reaches up to the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, the Chief of Staff for the FBI, the Attorney General of the United States, although in this email she goes by the name of Elizabeth Carlisle. That was her alias, if you will. She went by this name. For whatever reason, they decided to do it, but it's part of our request that we got out of the federal court. The Department of Justice was required to give us evidence related to it, documentation, and that was included in this. But what it tells you is when you go through the whole timeline here, you have, besides the fact that reporters are calling and they're trying to retweak stories, and you could tell just from the email traffic, these reporters didn't even want to do this story. They were being compelled to. Even if Fox News is covering it, they maybe won't have to. This is how they're sharing this back and forth. But at the end of the day, this goes right up to the Attorney General of the United States and, frankly, right at the doorstep of the FBI director. Yeah.
Does this potentially expose its own version of collusion, that they're trying to cover up the fact that they were in the fix, if you will, for Hillary Clinton, and they didn't want it exposed, and add to that that it's not an investigation, it's a matter? I mean, that seems to be building a case.
Yeah, but add to that also, Sean, that the basis upon which James Comey said he went public was because of these meetings that we've got the documents on now. Yeah. That's the reason he said he made that public statement, because he said the integrity of the agency, the FBI, was put at risk, and the Department of Justice by Loretta Lynch's action. But remember this, she never recused herself from the actual outcome of the proceeding. That was the irony of all this. But yeah, it points to a whole level of not only the attempt to craft a narrative. We are going back to court, by the way, to get what that final narrative was, because that they redacted. So we're going to get that from federal court. We're going back in. But but what this shows today, it went to the Attorney General and went right to the doorstep of the FBI director and ultimately to him, because obviously his chief of staff informed him of exactly what was going on with this nonsense, because he comes out and makes that statement. And you can't look at that in a vacuum. You got to put that in the context of exactly what took place. He makes that speech where he exonerates, but he said the reason he went public when he gave his testimony before Congress, what was the reason he went public? Because of the meeting on the tarmac.
What about
that was the reason he did this?
And his interview this weekend with Fox's own Chris Wallace? What is your take on that? Because I see investigative mission creep. It's supposed to be about Russia. Now we're at finances. Now we're at obstruction. That then brings in a conflict with Rosenstein, doesn't it? Because he wrote the letter about Comey?
I think, look, here's what happened. I think Rod Rosenstein appropriately stated that there's not going to be a fishing expedition. He said that twice. In the course of the Chris Wallace interview.
But it seems like there is one. To me, I won't let you weigh in on that, but because of your position. But he says that, but it seems to be going there.
Well, you know, look, I mean, there's a specific mandate that is the basis upon which Bob Mueller can exercise his jurisdiction, so to speak. It's a specific mandate. And what Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, who's the acting Attorney General for this, said was, this isn't going to be fishing expeditions. We're not letting it go beyond that. It's going to be within that mandate, and he said it twice. So I actually think that was encouraging, that this is not going to be a fishing expedition, that they're going to do their job and do it expeditiously.
Where are the special counsels on all the issues that I seem to be like a voice in the wilderness bringing up?
Where's the grand jury on all this? I mean, ask that question. Where is the grand jury on all of what I'm holding in my hand? Why was none of this investigated? And no subpoenas issued there. So
concessions
nobody
do
under
that,
oath?
or does Rosenstein have to do that?
Well, this is not related to Russia, so this would fall within the normal parameters of the Department of Justice. And Sean, to be fair here, they may well be investigating this. You normally would not know that was going on. That usually goes on if it's a grand jury that's investigating this. It's normally do their business without it being a public discussion about it. So maybe that is going on. But it does point to this. When you look at this narrative in this timeline on this FOIA request, it's incredible what was going on. They knew they had a tempest in a teapot here, and they were trying to figure out the best way to handle it. And it ends up being that James Comey's got to make that final statement, which I put the whole justice system at risk, if you ask me.
Total corroboration that it's political, and you need equal justice under the law. All right, Jay Sekulow, thank you. Appreciate it.